What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is Wednesday, August 6, 2025. As always, I am PK alongside my co-host Phil. Episode 374. Before we dive into our week that was, the Bills, Bandits, NLL, and all that fun stuff, I'm trying to remember to do the intro every time. I keep forgetting every once in a while. I remember last week, forgot the week before. So remember, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikToks at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky, Buffalo Sports Co. Don't forget to follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com. You can check out our store on our link tree on our social media sites or at the top of the website by hitting the shop tab. You can represent the BSC on the go and look for time breakdowns in the description of the show. Today's show, week that was, like I mentioned, we got the Bills' top defender that we're most impressed with ahead of their first preseason game coming up on Saturday, their only home preseason game of the year. We got some Rochester news. We're recording late on Tuesday, so news that broke Monday officially, and then we made official earlier Tuesday. Watched the press conference, loved it. Rochester's sticking around. We'll hear our comments on that. Some signings across the NLL ahead of some CBA talk, and the transition into the CBA talk as Phil and I enter the negotiation room. Putting it out there multiple times, we are not lawyers. We do not pretend to be lawyers. We will not be talking about money or financing or revenue or any of that kind of boring crap. We're going to be talking about some fun stuff that we would like to see if we were the players or we were the general managers. We got three ideas that we would bring up if we were the players. One, if we were the owner, because a lot of the owner stuff is just going to be related to the boring stuff, and we don't like to keep it boring. So that is on the docket today. But Phil, how was your week that was? What did you do? Anything fun?
It was mine and the wife's first anniversary
Woo-hoo!
last Sunday. Thank you.
You made it. You made it to year one.
Yes.
Now you've officially eclipsed like 90% of the population. I have no idea. I'm just going to throw that stat out and believe it.
That seems like a high stat, but sure, we'll go with it. On Friday, I will explain what happened later in the show. What happened on Friday, and then Saturday we went to a Darien Lake concert, Glass Animals. I had never been to Darien Lake for a concert before, and I had heard pretty much just nothing but horror stories about parking, and we ended up getting there late on purpose. We didn't really care about the opener too much, so we were trying to kind of skip the opener, but get in obviously before Glass Animals started, and everything worked out pretty flawlessly for us. Where we ended up parking was right next to a porta potty that was very clean, which was great in case we needed to go to the bathroom. And then we made it into the show with like 10-15 minutes after getting drinks before the concert started, which was great. And then on the way out, I think it took us, by the time we actually started driving and wanted to leave the parking lot, I think it took less than 5 minutes to get out of the parking lot. And normally I don't know. There was a lot of horror stories that you're going to be stuck there for like hours at Darien Lake. Like there's no way to get out quickly. And we were parked, again, just very luckily. So I'm sure those stories do exist and it does happen. And it might also be for bigger concerts. This was pretty big, but I don't think as big as some other ones are. But we were parked a few rows back from where you have to pay extra for like easy out. So it ended up working out really, really well for us. And we ended up getting home super quick. Like the roads weren't congested either. So I don't know. Overall, it was a great experience. And then Sunday, we just kind of relaxed and celebrated the anniversary at home. Did some stuff around the house and the huge.
Nice. While you were celebrating that, I was driving 8 hours to Vermont and 8 hours back from Vermont. I did make it. As you can see, I'm here. Bought a shirt while I was there. Smallers. I won't go into all the details because I know vast majority of people don't play disc golf and don't really care. Don't froth, don't care about disc golf whatsoever. We played the number 5 and number 7 course in the entire world, or courses. First day we did Fox Run. I was 1 under through 11. And these are like professional courses that legit disc golf professionals were playing. I finished 4 over. Little topple, but not bad. Good friend Mike P beat me by 2. Next day we did Brewster's I believe that's how you pronounce it. Brewsters. Brewsters.
Brewster's good enough.
That's number 5 in the world. I was even on the back 9, and holes 5 through 9, I was 9 over. So a 5-hole stretch killed me. That one had a lot of trees. That one was rough, yelling and swearing a lot. And then Saturday, we did a bunch of wine tours, and that was fun. Found a bourbon tasting that was really fun. Got a bunch of maple syrup because we're in Vermont. But I was talking to Mike at the end, and maybe it was because after the wine tours, but I went, man, I just want to keep playing disc golf. And he goes, there's a course like on the way home. I was like, okay, let's wake up at 7, be packed up off the campsite by 7:30. We'll hit up the course at 8. We did. I was 9 over, beat Mike by 3. First time all weekend I beat him, but that was also a nice course. So hit up 3 courses while we were in Vermont. Then it was a straight, pretty much 7-hour drive home. I think we stopped once because there's nothing out there. You lose service. Here's the fun story. I'll go really quick through it. So me and Mike didn't have any music prepared whatsoever. We were just like, we'll listen to Spotify, whatever. When you lose service, all that was playing was the last 4 songs, and we lost service for 2 hours because we were behind a logging truck up through the mountains. Let me tell you, when you don't have service, there's no radio stations because you're literally in the Adirondack Mountains, and you're listening to the same 4 songs over and over and over. Did you ever see that episode of How I Met Your Mother where the cassette tapes and they're like, don't worry, it'll come back around? It's false. It doesn't. You want to drive off the cliff. Thought about it multiple
500
times.
miles.
Oh, man, it was horrible. So, yeah, we downloaded music and podcasts on the way home and did not have to deal with that. But all the stores and stuff were closed because it was Sunday, and we got to a town at 2 o'clock, and everything was closed. So we just ran into a grocery store, and I look over at Mike. I was like, you can eat while I drive, but I just want to get this over with. So pretty much 7.5 hours of just straight driving all the way back home. But we made it. It was a fun time. We're planning another trip next year to Massachusetts to hit up Maple Run, I think it's called. So it's in the works. But it was a fun time. Highly encourage anybody that does like disc golf to go check out those courses. Really fun, really good time. Really happy I went. But enough of my golf. Frisbee golf, not ball golf, that Jake Elliott likes to always say, because nobody really cares. It's kind of like talking about your fantasy team. Nobody really cares unless it's you and you're in the same league. But we'll move on to the Buffalo Bills. Like I mentioned, preseason games started last week with the Hall of Fame game, but the Bills start their preseason this coming Saturday, I believe, versus the Giants at home. This will be the cheapest ticket you can get back into Highmark, Ralph, Rich Stadium, whatever you want to call it, before it closes. There's going to be no cheaper tickets. So if you want to go, this would be the Saturday. I don't even know if there's still tickets. But last week we talked about the top offensive player that has stood out through camp. They're 10 practices in, Phil. 2 weeks in. Preseason game starts on Saturday. They're getting out of St. John Fisher shortly. Who on the defensive side of the ball has stood out to you so far?
Yeah, especially with one of the many most recent injuries to Hairston. I think Tre'Davious White and his ability to step up. I think when he came to camp, especially after the last few years he's had, you don't really know what to expect and just how good he's going to be. Is he going to be a veteran depth player? I know you kind of picked him to be running for the CB2, and obviously Hairston would kind of come along, so his injury doesn't really affect the beginning of the season, but it could affect the long term. Like, it could take Hairston that much longer to get into the season and be that kind of impact player they're hoping he might be. So Tre'Davious White and the camp he's had so far, it's been nothing but glowing, and I think that's what the Bills need. They need a solid CB2. They need someone who can be a veteran, who knows the Bills system really, really well, can come in and just flawlessly execute that system, but even though he knows all that, it's still up to him and like what his abilities are after so many devastating injuries. I know they said at the end of last year with the Ravens, he started to kind of put it together and then got burned for a touchdown in the playoffs. Thank you very much for that. But it seems like he really is coming along very well so far early in the training camp. And I think the Bills desperately need a solid, reliable CB2. So I think that's really, really big for the team right now, that they can bring in a veteran like him, and he is stepping up to the ability that, again, he's never going to be what he used to be pre-injury, but the fact that he's even making flash plays, making splash plays in camp. You just need him to essentially not be a weakness. And I think right now he's showing that he's going to be a very steady presence for that CB2 role.
Yeah, we're recording Tuesday around 8 or 7:30. Yes, sorry. So episode 1 of Hard Knocks is not out. I think he's going to be an absolute star on that one. But yeah, I going into camp, it was White versus Hairston, and Hairston goes down with torn Achilles. Remember, he had a torn Achilles. I'm just kidding. I like giving people hard times, even though they're not listening to this show. I don't care. But yeah, he went down to the injury, and Tre'Davious White to me was already winning that battle. It wasn't won, but through those practices, he was winning it, and I think him coming into a CB2 role and having Benford on the other side, which he was up for contention for my player here because he's just locking everybody down. He's just playing unbelievable. Him being that underrated CB1, possibly one of the best CB players in the entire league, you don't have to have Tre'Davious White being the number one option because Benford's going to lock down the opponent's number one wide receiver. You just need White not to struggle. And he's not going to do that. Even you're not getting peak Tre'Davious White. You were never going to get that even if he was playing up to his top notch. It's not going to happen. He's past his prime. You just need somebody that knows the system and is not going to get burned. And White's been making some big-time splash plays. Yes, he got burned in the one practice, and I fully expect to see it on Hard Knocks because they said he blew up on the sidelines. But I absolutely love his performance so far. I was a little hesitant when they brought him in, like, okay, they're bringing in another former player. How's this going to work? They brought in Jordan Phillips in prior years, and that didn't really work out in the defensive line. I really like the bring back of Tre'Davious White. I think that's a very good pick. I went Matt Milano. He has not been healthy the last few years. If you can get, and I've said it for multiple years, we've been going into year 5 of this show. I wanted to see Terrell Bernard and Matt Milano on the field, both healthy, like fully healthy at some point. We saw for a couple games last year, a couple games the year before, and that was really a couple years before was Bernard's like entry into being that middle linebacker where he kind of came out of nowhere. He didn't even have a preseason. I think Matt Milano's had a fantastic one. I'm not saying he's prime Matt Milano because you're not going to be prime Matt Milano, but having him as a linebacker that you can count on, again, no shot at Dorian Williams. I think he has a very bright future. And if and when Matt Milano doesn't come back next year, I think Dorian Williams can slide right into that piece. But there's only one Matt Milano on this team, and when he's on the field, the defense is different, and it allows everybody to play a little bit more loose, a little bit more free, and he's just that reliable, steady presence out there. So while you're not going to get the primetime Matt Milano that we've seen in the past, you're finally getting a healthy Matt Milano, knock on wood, that all the injuries that have been going down. But I really like Matt Milano, and I'm very excited to see this locker room because if you can push Dorian Williams to your number 3, that linebacker core is very, very deep and can be one of the more foundational pieces or important pieces or big-time pieces as a room on this team that, to me, was more of a weakness or a question mark last year.
Yeah, we just mentioned at the end there is exactly why they need Matt Milano to be Matt Milano that we know he can be. Again, he's not going to be prime time anymore. He's on the, twilight years of his career, going through a lot of injuries. So he's never going to be peak Matt Milano. But if he can be that solid linebacker on the field and push Dorian Williams to that rotational role, that makes the entire team and that defense that much better because Dorian Williams could step in and be the Matt Milano position. So if you have that as your rotational linebacker who could be a starter on this team if something were to happen, that's incredible depth to have for this team. Like you said, he might be there next year. If Milano doesn't come back, it might be Williams' time to step up and take over. But to be able to have that kind of talent sitting as a rotational player that you can throw in a big situation when anyone needs a break or certain packages, you can get him out there. I think that's huge, not only for Williams, but also for Milano. And like you said, the biggest thing with him is he's finally healthy, going into a training camp healthy, and he looks good as a healthy Matt Milano. Now, the biggest thing is staying healthy would be nice and not getting random freak injuries anytime for an entire season. But for now, through training camp, he's looking really solid. And again, if it pushes Williams to a rotational thing, I think that's even better for him and for his development and for the team.
Yeah, they're going through a lot of injuries right now. Nothing seems big long-term. Shakir's is the most questionable one with the high ankle sprain, but he should be back fine. That locker room cannot lose a Khalil Shakir because it would not look good, but I'm interested and excited to see both the Hard Knocks game or Hard Knocks episode that's coming out after we're done. I'm going to watch it. I'm excited to see that one. More excited than I thought it was going to be. Yeah.
It's going to be weird to again, just see the Bills in this kind of prime time on the camera light. It's just weird to think of the Bills. I mean, being Bills fans our entire lives, they're always the small market team. I'd never really expected them to ever reach the ability to be the Hard Knocks chosen team. So I feel like it's going to be very strange watching that, but I'm also very excited about it.
Yeah, I was on Talking Buffalo a few weeks ago, and he asked, Sean McDermott, and I said, Hard Knocks might be good for him because he's going to be able to show more of his personality. I'm excited to see a little bit more of Sean McDermott because I feel like even in last year he kind of took his hat off and undid his wrist buttons a little bit. I saw a little bit more of Sean McDermott, but I'm interested. I'm excited to see it. Just stay healthy on Saturday, boys. No injuries, please, especially to the big number 17. I'm not going to even say his name because I don't want it to happen. But what did happen, heck of a transition. I'm getting not any better. Just staying steady on that one. Staying steady. Rochester. Rochester's not only staying in the league, but they're staying in Rochester. The Seneca Nation purchased the Rochester Nighthawks. I still have to talk to my accountant wife to figure out how the heck that happens because that makes no sense to me that Pegulas kind of gave up ownership of them, dropped the keys off in the door and said, see you later, and then they still had to buy them from the Pegulas. Made no sense to me, but maybe somebody smarter like my wife can explain that to me. But I will not knock Terry Pegula. I know there's a bunch of people that were knocking him leading up to this. You got to remember, the only reason that there was even a Rochester team to sell, and again, I'm not the biggest Terry Pegula fan. I'm not the biggest Pegula fan at all, his whole family. But you have to admit, when he does something well, he kept Rochester. Yes, it's not the original Rochester, but he kept a team in Rochester for as long as he did. You have to give him full credit for that. It sounds like they were a big partner in helping this transition to keep Rochester once again, and that was a big part of this. So hats off to him, hats off to the league, hats off to everyone involved getting this done. I mean, they said it in the press conference, 2.5 months to get this entire thing completed. I know there's still inner workings, and that's why it's good that Pegula still owns the Buffalo Bandits because he's still going to be around, can help this transition. It's kind of what Brett Fruit has said as well. But getting this all worked out, it's usually, even Brett Fruit said it's usually like a year-long thing, and they got it done in 2.5 months. I'm so happy to be wrong. I really didn't think this was going to happen based on Rochester being up for sale for as long as it was. How's the league going to find a buyer?
Just based on what you just said, that normally takes a year, and they had 2.5 months. So, just the thought process of are they going to be able to get this done makes you think, no, there's no way that's going to be able to happen.
Yeah, I'm so happy this all worked out. I'm so happy not just that they're sticking around in the league, but they're sticking in Rochester. I think that's very good for the sport. Brett Fruit deserves a ton of credit with this one. I mean, for everything that he did, his entire team, avoiding a back-to-back year of having a team fold had to get done. I mean, this was a pressure situation. You could not have back-to-back years, them folding, going from 15 to 13 in 2 years. But now that they did the work, now that Rochester's sticking around, now that all the fans of the Rochester Nighthawks wanted this team to stick around, it's up to the organization and the fan base to fill that barn. Because if not, we could be back in the same... I'm trying not to be negative, but they need to sell that place out and get fans in the door. Because this team is young. They got great players. They got the defending MVP out there. They've made the playoffs 3 straight years. Fans need to buy in and get involved, and the organization needs to do a good job of bringing fans in and making them want to come to the games. You wanted the franchise to stay. It is. Now prove that you actually wanted it by getting fans there. Rochester has not been known recently to fill that barn unless some popular teams, Buffalo Bandits, come to town. You have to fill that barn to make it worth it for the new owners, the new Seneca Nation owners, to be happy with their investment. They're keeping them in Rochester for a reason, but if you're not selling this place out and proving why the team should stay in Rochester, in a few years they could be, in the same situation. Brett Fruit said the same thing. Now that it's here and they work so hard to keep it here, you have to prove that they made the right decision. I'm hoping that they do because as an overall fan of the sport and the league, a healthy league is when all of those arenas are sold out. So I hope it gets sold out to the brim. I want to see many more arenas like Buffalo. So Buffalo is not the peak I really hope one day we see that somebody else comes and takes the crown from the Buffalo Bandits, that they're the new top fan base,
Right?
that they're the new ones that you want to go see a game to. Because then I think the league is a much better place and much healthier.
Yeah, PK is wearing his Nighthawks green. I don't know if it's on purpose or on
It wasn't
accident,
happy accident. I'm Bob Ross.
but he is. I'm wearing my Do Something shirt, and that was to the NLL, and they did something. They were able to
Should have changed
keep
it.
this franchise. Did something.
Piece of paper.
It's still the Sabres on there
That's
somewhere.
fair. That's fair.
But no, it's great. Like you said, it's great. Obviously, it was something that needed to get done. You couldn't go for. I mean, I know we've talked about it a lot through free agency and whatnot, but the idea of an expansion draft again. Dispersal. Sorry. The opposite of an expansion draft. And we'll get to it when we talk about it a little later. Kind of bleeds into something else we'll discuss, but it sounded horrifying, not only for these other teams getting incredibly good free talent, but again, it just pushes talent out of the league, and that's not something you need. You need more and more talent coming into this league. You need more and more players being around and being in this league. Like, the smaller it gets, the harder it is, not only for the league to stay afloat, but for players to want to come play for the NLL. Like, there's only so many teams. There's only, such big rosters. So if you take an entire team out of it, like they already did, like you said, a couple of years ago with Panther City, you keep removing teams. It makes it harder and harder for players to get in, and then they start going elsewhere. They're like, okay, well, if I can't play for the NLL because they only have 13 teams, where else can I play? And then maybe those leagues start to get boosted up because they simply have teams and availability. So obviously, incredibly good to see that this team is staying, not only, like you said, in the league, but also in Rochester. I'm excited to see what a new ownership will do, especially in its first year. I mean, this is their big chance to try to use this kind of momentum for Rochester. Like, yes, it's still the same Rochester team. They're not going anywhere, but you can use this as, hey, we're new owners. This is what we're going to do differently, or, do what they can to draw fans in. So I'm interested to see if they're going to throw out different jerseys, throw out different promotions. It'll be just an interesting year, especially living so close to Rochester. I'm sure we'll get a lot of those promotions just over our own ad space, not obviously the podcast, but we'll just see it kind of around, be like, hey, you want to catch a Rochester game? So it'll be interesting to see what kind of promotions and things they do of, hey, we're new owners, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we can draw fans in. So very excited to see what they're able to do. But like you said, fans need to get there and prove that this was the right move and keep this team around for a long time.
Adam Levy, if you're listening, thank you for coming back. He strikes again this offseason, because if Adam Levy wasn't around, I don't know how much information. Yeah. Thank you, Adam Levy, for hanging out and coming back to the NLL stratosphere, because we missed you for that little bit of time. So happy you're back. Please don't leave us. Please don't leave us again. But we'll move on. Last week we talked about forwards and goalies for the UFAs. The week before that, it was transition of defense. As we know, free agency has already moved to the 15th. Hopefully that's locked in. But there was some movement around the league this past week. And to me, that's a good thing. And it's less about who signed, and it's more about there's actually signings. Because to me, a lot of these players wouldn't be getting signed if something wasn't, gears wouldn't be moving.
Semi in the works.
Yeah, something has to be in the works. Maybe they're progressing again. No, nothing. Even though we're going to be sitting at the table in just a couple minutes here. Robert Church could have rejected the franchise tag. He got it. He accepted it. He's locked into Saskatchewan for another year. We expected that. Ryan Keenan, another year there. Expected that. Josh Dowick, 2 years. Fully expected that. I mean, Keenan's not leaving his dad. Dowick's not leaving his dad, even though Dowick was an RFA, or I think he was an RFA. He couldn't go anywhere. Tyson Bell, the one that we were talking about, one of the UFAs that hadn't re-signed in Halifax, he gets a 1-year contract there. Zach Courier, fully expected it, gets the franchise tag in San Diego. He's not going anywhere. And then Trey LeClaire and Danny Logan, 3 years. That's not confirmed yet, but that's from Adam Levy. I believe San Diego even put it there, but it's not in the transition wire yet for the NLL. But they're locked up 3 more years with San Diego. Neither one of those guys were UFAs, but just putting that out there. But there's a lot of movement in the signing department. There was a lot of movement earlier in July with Halifax. I don't know everything. I don't know anything concerning the CBA. I don't know where they are. I'm in the dark as much as everybody else out there. As come to expect. But I am very cautiously optimistic with all these recent signings, especially recently, because to me, again, not knowing anything, I think that means that something is in the works with the CBA. And hopefully with this Rochester business put to rest now, Brett Frew can now turn his attention more to the CBA and help negotiate and get that done, because he's already been a part of one of these when that whole thing happened, and they got it done shortly after the first delay. I believe it was towards the middle or late August. So hopefully now that Rochester's done, Brett Frew can focus attention and hit another home run getting the CBA locked in.
Yeah, now they have a new owner for the CBA to discuss as well, and I wonder if that was slightly part of the delay in general.
Very much could be. Yep.
They might have talked about it a lot, but at the same time, as the owners group, you're probably like, well, we have a team to figure out, and also when they get here, we have a new owner to discuss the CBA with as well. So maybe that was part of the reason they were kind of holding off to see if another owner would join in on the negotiations. So now you have the Seneca Nation going into these negotiations as well. So that'll be interesting to see how they represent Rochester. Now, again, we're not going to get into the behind the scenes of all that nonsense, but like you said, overall with movement around the league, it shows a good sign. If everything was completely quiet and there was no signings, no nothing, no information, that is when it gets worrisome that, are they going to hold out for a year because we aren't hearing anybody re-signing or anything. But some of these bigger names, especially like you said, Robert Church expected to do that, Keenan, Dowick, all expected, but the fact that they're going through and making these deals is a really good sign. We don't know when that will all, kind of come to fruition, but it's still positive news to hear any kind of movement right now throughout the NLL.
Yeah, that put it perfectly. Any news is good news on this front, especially that type of news. But before we go sitting at the CBA table, we're going to go over our first and only sponsor of this show, which is Tap That Tap Room, 363 Delaware Street in Tonawanda, New York. It's Buffalo's first woman-owned self-pour bar. They feature 30 consistently rotating taps. You can get anything you want there. They offer a variety of beers, ciders, sours, seltzers, and malt beverages.
Normally, PK, we go over the different events they have coming up, and you can check out their Facebook page for their posted events. I'm going to tell you about how I went there the other day with a work event. So, went there. I knew what to do because we have been there plenty of times. We are experts, but it was kind of fun.
We also
seeing
listened
other
to
people.
our reel last week.
Exactly. It was amazing. We should have just been playing that in the background. If you don't know what to do, watch this reel. But it was kind of interesting to see other people who had never been to Tap That Tap Room or a establishment like that kind of go through the process. Some people, like I think you and I struggled with, or I've struggled with at least once or twice, had no idea how to put the card in, even though the directions are very simple and they were trying to tap and it wasn't working. I was like, well, just read what it says. It says place card here. They figured it out after a little bit. It was fun to see people try a bunch of different ones, and I kept pushing that exact thing. I was like, well, try a little bit, and then if you like it, go and have some more, and that's what most people were doing. But I overheard a few people say, like, wow, this is a really unique idea, and this is what I'm going to do more often. I love this idea instead of a bar. This is great, and I love being able to try out all these, go get a drink when I want. The atmosphere was really nice, so it was cool to hear everything that we say on the reels and everything that we kind of promote come to fruition from people who had never been there before and get to experience it. And again, me being there plenty of times, I knew all that stuff. So it was kind of fun overhearing a lot of people say the exact kind of stuff that we say on these reels and the advertisements for them, because it's all true. Everything we're saying is what we believe and what we've experienced going there ourselves. So it was a lot of fun to see other people get to experience that and then kind of have the same thoughts and feelings as well. So go check out the Facebook page for events. If you don't want to go during an event, just go there, check it out. It's a really, really awesome idea, awesome place. And like some people said there, you may not want to go to a bar ever again.
Yeah, what we always say, whether it's new sponsors or old sponsors, we're never going to have a sponsor on the show that we don't partake and use or go to ourselves. And Tap That Tap Room has been our longest running sponsor. Hopefully they continue for years and years and years, because we're going to keep showing our love to them. They keep showing our love to us. It's a perfect marriage, Phil, just like you and Ashley. Perfect marriage 1 year in. This is a perfect marriage as well. Go check out Tap That Tap Room. Like Phil said, most people are never going to want to go to a normal bar again once they hit up one of these self-pour bars. And the best one around, Tap That Tap Room, especially for the Bandits games. We'll be getting into that December.
It's early, but still.
Keep it on your mind. Start planning for the away games in December, January, and February because it's cold outside. Go warm up at Tap That Tap Room. We'll move on. Like we mentioned, free agency moved to not this Friday, hopefully next Friday. We'll see. But as we did last year, we're in a bit of a freeze. But the main talking point now shifts over to the CBA. We are going to be sitting down at the negotiation table and bring up ideas we'd be discussing if we were a player or if we were an owner. We got 3 topics as players because we are players first. Owners are rich. They do not need more money. Shame on you owners. It's just
but we do
fun.
Appreciate you owning NLL teams and
thank you for Seneca Nation for buying the Rochester Nighthawks. That's all just one big joke. But we only have one as an owner because, we don't know and really don't want to know all the fine-tooth aspects of being an owner in the NLL or being an owner in general. I can barely manage my own life. I'm not going to try to manage other people's lives across the NLL. But we are going to stay away from the money and revenue aspect like we mentioned right off the get-go. They're the main talking points anyways. They're not fun. And we don't know the inner workings. We don't know the books. We haven't seen them. We don't want to see them. We don't really care. We're just going to have some fun with this. Well, again, we're not lawyers. We're not negotiationeers. How would you say
negotiators?
That? That's it. Got it. This is why we're a 2 co-host show. When I don't know words, Phil does. Let's start with the players.
I'm gonna do the top of this. You do your idea.
Okay, love it. Go for
it. Your ideas are very fleshed out. So
thank you.
This idea number 1 is to change how free agency works for the players. This has been a big talking point for the players for years and years, and it makes a ton of sense. But currently, you do not become an RFA until 3 completed seasons and 26 games. Unrestricted free agency does not start until age 30 and 6 seasons or 8 total seasons if you got in real early, and you'd have to start real early.
Christian
Sam LaRue, probably still 19, I think. And at age 33 is when you can first reject the franchise tag. PK has a new idea. Take it away.
Yeah, those are our their current CBAs.
CBA.
Those are my current because I am a player in this negotiation game.
Yes, sorry.
Sitting down here.
Those are your current
Yes.
restrictions you are forced to uphold.
Since I came into this league, I think it's stupid. I hate it.
What round were you drafted, by the way?
I was drafted in the 15th round. Blossoming star. Everybody counted me out. 15. I was a walk-on. I was a super senior. I think, personally, the 3 years until RFA plus the 26 games is a good marker. I think leaving that where it is, I'm good with that, owners. You don't have to trust that at all. I think that is a good stepping stone to become an RFA. My issue is I'm going to hit my prime soon. I'm sitting here 33 years old. I hit my prime years ago. There's some people younger than me that are going to be hitting their primes earlier. They have the right to get to free agency earlier. You shouldn't be sitting here 33 years old like me, past my prime, and just reaching free agency. I think for UFA status, which is when you can sign with anybody, I think age 28 and 5 completed seasons. I think that's fair. Or 6 seasons. So we're trimming it from age 30 and 6 seasons to 28 and 5. We're trimming it from 8 completed seasons to 6. I think that's very fair. I think I'm talking to the owners right now, Phil. You're the owner right now. I think that's very fair.
Yes.
And then, if you want to throw the franchise tag at me, you can do it until I'm 32 or 8 completed seasons. Then I can start rejecting the franchise tag. And on top of that, I don't want you to franchise tag me into oblivion like Calgary would have done with Christian Del Bianco, like they're going to be trying to do with Tyler Pace. 2 seasons in a row, kind of like the NFL. But then that second season that you franchise tag me in a row, that salary increases. It's not a base salary. You can't franchise tag me at the same amount that you did the year before. It increases by a good amount to kind of either, okay, if you're going to franchise tag me a second time, I need to make it worth it. So to me, some teams might think this is unfair. Some teams might think, all my talent is going to be hitting free agency at their prime time careers. And some teams, Ottawa, will lose their star players like a Jeff Teat for nothing. My response to that as a player, invest in your team, collect the talent around them, and make players want to stay where they're at right now. If the team's winning, Ottawa, for example, Jeff Teat's not going to want to go anywhere else because he's got it made in Ottawa. If you're not investing in the team, you're not collecting talent around those players, yeah, of course, when they hit their primes, why wouldn't they want to go shop their talents elsewhere so they can actually make playoffs, Ottawa, one time? Yes, I'm giving Ottawa a hard time, but whatever. So I really do think that if you make it easier for these players to reach players like me to reach free agency, it's going to be healthier for the league. It's going to bring more competition to the league, and it's going to make owners and teams invest in their products because, hey, my primetime star players can walk out the door for nothing at a sooner age. So I think overall it's healthier for the league, but it's especially healthier for players like me who can go earn a bit more money in free agency. I know there's not a ton of money in free agency right now. There's not a ton of money across the league right now. We're not even talking about money whatsoever, but I do think it's beneficial for players to be able to pick where they want to play. And I know a lot of teams are very cognizant, that's the right word, of moving players where they need to be. And I think a lot of more teams are, when they're drafting players for the specific region that they're in right now. But there's still some times where that doesn't happen. There's still some times where outside lives conflict with the NLL. I think if you give them that ability to reach their free agency status at a primetime career, I mean, if you're reaching it at 28, say you 28 and 5 seasons, franchise tag me twice, that's fine. I'm reaching free agency at 30 rather than 33. That 3 years is a massive difference. Dane Smith's going to be 33 this year. He could have been a free agent 3 years ago in my situation. So, or even before that, because he came into the league at 18. So I really think that these small tweaks, that's not massive. I'm not overhauling everything, but I am shrinking it down, and I think that's more fair to players, and I think that more aligns with the other leagues across the sports universe.
So that's 3 years as an RFA, right?
No, you have to be 3 completed seasons to become an RFA.
Gotcha. No, it looks good. As an owner, I would like them under my team control until about 40,
selfish. Yeah,
42.
selfish. Yeah, I get that. That's why we're fighting right now.
Yeah, but if you want to go this way, that's fine. No, I think it is true. I mean, if you look at, we talk about this a lot, about the way the NLL works. It's a little bit different from other sports. You look at a NFL running back at 28 and you're like, they're done. They're out of the league. You're toast. But you look at the NLL and you see them at 30, 31, 32, and they're like, oh, they just signed another 3-year deal. They're still in their prime. But to me, I think their true prime is exactly what you're saying. 28 years old, 5 completed seasons or 6 seasons. Like, that is when they want... Again, there's not a lot of money, so you can't say, like, the big contract or anything, but that's when they should be able to, in their prime, like you mentioned, be able to go wherever they want, do whatever they want, because that is when, like that, especially age 28, like that's when you're really hitting your prime in the NLL. I would say, 28 to 32 is like your extreme peak. Yeah. And yes, players like Dane and Josh, especially for the Bandits, you hope they're in their prime till 37, 38, 39. We'll see what they can do. But I think for the average NLL player that isn't the top, superstars, I feel like 28 to 32 is like their prime window of being really, really talented. So I think getting them to free agency that little bit sooner, especially like you said, the elite stars that can go 28, franchise tag twice, then even them at age 30, you're still in the middle of that your prime years to go wherever you'd like to go. I think that seems very fair for the players, and still for a team, you still get them for at least 5 years. So it's not like you said, you have 5 years to build around this player. I know we're still picking on them, but Jeff Teat is still the great example. You have 5 years in this example to build around Jeff Teat, or 6 years if they come in earlier. So at least 5 or 6 years to build around an all-star player. Like, that's plenty of time to make adjustments, do what you need to do. And if you can't make it work, then do what you do in what we're doing a lot in Football Dynasty right now. And my team is torn down to nothing, and I got tons of picks, and be what Albany did. They but they lost to Joe Rezateras, who's still at the peak prime of his career, putting up over 100-point seasons, but they tore it down to nothing, started over, and now they have an incredible young core to build around and work forward again. And they can keep all those guys because they're all coming in at the same time. They all want to be there, and that's just a good way to do it. So it still, I think, cycles the league very fairly, while at the same time giving those players opportunities, like you said, to go compete for a championship with a top team, go make playoffs if they want to while they're still in the prime of their career.
So I was passionate about idea one. I don't think we've ever talked this in depth about that idea on this show, but idea two that Phil's going to bring up here. I've talked about, I don't know how many times in the offseason. I remember talking to Teddy Jenner about this when he came on the show for the first time, like
sense.
3 or 4 years ago. This is the one I'm super passionate about.
And this one we have discussed a ton because it makes so much sense. And again, hinted at it a little bit ago with Rochester. Expand the size of the teams. Less about the active players and more about the amount of draft picks, and players really don't get a fair shot. Players in the NLL can play well into their 30s. Some players don't even get in the league until 23, 24. If you're a goalie, you could be a backup until 24, 25, 26. Unless you're a first rounder, most players don't even crack the NLL lineup. Very, very true. If you look at the Bandits, for an example, you got a 21-man roster. We went over this, last draft season as well. 21-man roster, 19 start in games, 4 practice spots, 25 total players, 6 rounds of the draft. And I think we had, I forgot how it broke down when we did it for the draft picks, but it was, most of them were second and first rounders and maybe 2 third rounders, and there was 1 random 6th round pick. So it doesn't give you a lot of room for a draft pick to make the team, especially pretty much 3rd round and later. You're at an extreme disadvantage to try to make these very, very tight rosters. There's just not enough roster spots and that many rounds. There aren't enough teams either. Just talked about it. We're losing teams, and luckily we were able to keep the one, but you just lost Panther City, so now you've lost 25 jobs. You're down to, again, talked about it, 14 teams. Luckily we aren't going to 13, but still, this reduced a lot of the ability for those players to make teams. I mean, you had a solid team that was there. All those players got dispersed. There's that much less room across the entire NLL for not only the players on Panther City to go make those teams, but now anybody else trying to get in, there's just that many less opportunities. PK has a proposal.
So my teammate here, Phil, just laid it all out. The reasons and the problems that we're having across the league right now. With Panther City folding last year, 25 less jobs at the bare minimum. There were other lists that players were on. That's 25 less jobs for those players. And what happens is the top players are obviously going to find jobs. But the lesser players, the depth players, get pushed out and phased out. And that's not fair. To me, I'm not looking for a drastic change here. And this is what my stance has been since I came into the league at 18 as a 15th round draft pick. I want to expand practice squad rosters by 1 to make it 5 instead of 4. That instantly makes 14 extra roster spots across the league. That's 14 more players that wouldn't have had a job before this proposal through. I want to add 2 or 3 spots. You guys can choose. You're probably going to start with 2. But they're going to be red shirt players. That's kind of like it is in college. Red shirts cannot play in a game all season unless the team activates them. And doing so, they need to make room on their active roster or their practice squad doing that. Now, if you do that, those players that did get activated off the red shirt list cannot go back to it. So if you're playing Dynasty fantasy football, and I know we're relating to that, I know this is completely different, that's fantasy made up world, blah blah blah.
We've been doing a lot of dynasty drafts recently, so
right.
It's on the mind.
That's what we do with taxi squad players. If you're a certain area and demographic, you can go to the taxi squad, but if you get activated, you cannot go back. That's what it is here. It's similar to college. If you're a red shirt and you play in a game, you can't go back. Players eligible to me would be if you have been drafted in the previous 2 drafts and have not played more than 5 NLL games. For Bandits, again, for an example, that means the last 2 seasons, Evan C. could have been put on that list and not taken up a practice squad spot where we knew he was never going to go into a game because 2 years ago, they had 3 active goalies on their roster. Last year, you had Matt Vince and Steve Orleman. He was never going to play. I mean, this past year, it could have been Dooley. It could have been Robertson. It could have been Nielsen. They could have been there all year. I see way too many early draft picks that really don't get a real true chance to make it in this league because spaces are so limited. Training camps are so short. If we allow those teams those extra roster spots, draft picks can become more valuable around the league. That increases the value that those pieces are, the draft picks that is, not players. I'm not calling them pieces. But a fifth rounder could have more value. A sixth rounder could have more value. Heck, first rounders would have more value because you're going to have more roster spots to keep them. I mean, look at the Bandits for an example. The last few years, Christian Watts, fifth round pick. He played in one game. Kellen Polera, 2023 fourth round pick. He was cut. Ryan Sharkey, 2022 fourth round pick. Cut. Vance Adams, 2024 sixth round pick. Cut. Jake Rosa, 2023 third. Cut. Duncan Carte, I loved him. 2023 fifth round pick, cut. Austin Bloomberg's 2022 fifth round pick, cut. Nick Miller, breaking all those records in college. Loved him. He got signed. 2021, cut. Cullen Monroe, a 2021 second round pick, cut. Those players never made the team. If there was a redshirt or expanded practice squad, maybe some of those players would do it. I mean, it would allow players like Evan C., who, in my opinion, has a ton of potential. You're seeing what he's doing in juniors right now. They're not ready to cook in the NLL. Put him on the redshirt list. They're still practicing with the team. They're still developing. It's you're not costing the team an extra roster spot there. You can go towards a guy like a Corey Highfield last year or a Devlin Shanahan last year instead of taking it up on a player that you know is never going to crack the lineup, but is still part of your organization developing. I just don't understand why this isn't a concept that more teams are fighting for. Maybe that is part of the CBA negotiation, but with Panther City folding last year, Rochester sticking around, thank God. Otherwise, there would have been 50 jobs the last 2 years that are gone. I mean, that's not healthy for the league. I think this would be very healthy for the league, expanding it by one and adding that red shirt, because currently, if you're having this few teams, 14 teams total, and you're having these few roster spots, 25 total, and a sixth round draft, where are all these players going to go? Like, that's why we said trade your fifths and sixths to move up in the second, because the chances of a fifth and a sixth round draft pick right now making the team at all are so slim. So if you want to make those pieces, the draft picks and those players have a better chance to develop a career or pan out, you have to expand these and make it possible that teams can actually use those into the future.
It is weird to me that there is even a sixth round draft for the NLL. Like, not only do they not only make it, but like you just said, there's just no room for these players to even try to attempt to crack the lineup. Yes. So just to have them drafted and then not be able to do anything really, and really not even get much of a shot to make the team, just seems kind of unfair. Like a 4-round draft seems more realistic, where they might all have a shot at making the team, or at least some of them can fight for spots. You might get a surprise 4th round that pushes up and makes the spot, but the 5th and 6th rounds just very, very, very difficult to make it. And like you said, it's just it makes it a way to expand the talent pool across the NLL, and maybe you could see more. I mean, so here's 2 fun questions I have for our as you as a player. I guess this is me. We're going back and forth here. As the owner, am I paying these redshirt players to be on my team?
Yes.
Okay, so I got to find room in my salary cap and or earnings to pay these players.
Tough cookies. Bring more people into the arena.
That's I trust me. I wish I could, sir. I wish I could.
Are you trying? Are you trying?
If I could make more money, I would like to make more money. And 2, can I trade these redshirt players to other teams' redshirts? So that would be another cool thing, I think, with this is, like you mentioned, like if a redshirt player gets brought up, they can't go back down or anything, but maybe a team all of a sudden has a need and they see a redshirt player that they liked in the draft, hear some camp buzz, say, hey, how's this guy doing, to the GM that has the redshirt player and says, oh, he's actually doing really good in practice, development's been going well, like, all right, well, we need this depth spot, or we just had 6 guys get injured, Colorado, and don't want to replace anyone, Toronto. Maybe they could steal players like that and be like, all right, well, we have room on our roster now. We'll give them a shot over here. And I think, again, just a bigger player pool for all the teams to work with. I like it. as an owner, I don't want to pay him, but I get it in general.
Yeah, my services and fee. But yeah, I mean, even on top of that, how was I going to phrase this? I'm trying to remember what I was going to say. I had a loss. There it goes. Do you see it? My thought. It went away. I have no idea
Just
what
like
it was. I can't remember. Carry on. Now, idea 3 and our owner's idea are going to go a little bit quicker because this idea 3, it's less about getting it done and it's more about, because I want the first 2 ideas done. I want that completed. I ain't signing a CBA until it's done. But this idea 3, it's me more just knowing that I'm probably not going to get it done, but putting in the back of your mind that the next CBA, we're going to bring it up and it might be up to idea number 1 at that point.
All right, so this one, as an owner, I don't want to hear about it. Figure out how to get there. Rent a car. But this is better travel accommodations for players. And as we've heard plenty of people talk about, players talk about on other podcasts, that it's not only different for each player, but it's different for each team and how everybody kind of goes about it. Some teams like Buffalo have the money to make the accommodations. Buffalo is also in a good situation where they are. And I believe it's San Diego, I want to say, gets really good travel accommodations.
I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like I heard that they get
Josiah's got a lot of money.
Yeah, he does, and he really likes his team. Oh, a great owner.
People want to go play in San Diego? What the heck? Great environment, good owner that spends money on the team. What is going on here?
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. But the biggest interesting thing about this one, which I'll let PK get into his idea in just a moment, but it is the fact that the players are so all over the place. They're so spread out. They don't all live in market. Again, that's where Buffalo kind of has the advantage, where even if they don't live in market, a lot of them live just over the border between Buffalo and Toronto and St. Catharines and all that. They are all pretty well packed together, but it is tough for a lot of these teams to, we've seen plenty of players go from playing in San Diego to then getting traded to Buffalo, where they have to make the owners all of a sudden like, okay, well, now I have to pay for a cross-country flight however many times a year for this player to now come play for us. So it is tough in the aspect of the NLL is so spread out and they don't just have all the Buffalo Bills players hop on this one flight and we're all going to take off. Like, that just doesn't really exist too many places in the NLL, but I'm going to let PK take it away about why he's upset about his personal travel accommodations as a player.
So what you don't know is I only play home games. I don't actually have to travel.
Okay.
So personally, as
great.
a veteran on the team, I only have to play home games.
As a 15th round vet.
15-round vet, 33 years old, or exiting the prime of his career, I only play home games. But that's why I don't know the inner workings of the teams and how to get those players to the games. That's the higher-ups job. That's not me. That's not why you're paying me to play in these 9 home games. I know the Bandits have a ton of in-market players, so that makes it travel a bit easier than, say, Saskatchewan or a Halifax, and we saw that in the playoffs. But on top of that, in no way am I saying that the job to get 25 players plus staff and whatnot to different cities is easy. And I mean, I've traveled, you traveled, everybody has traveled, and you know what nightmare it can possibly be. Cancellations, delays, so on and so forth. But hearing Tyler Pace kind of go off about it and how crappy it is sometimes and how it can be for some players, we thought, maybe this is a good talking point. Maybe I can put it in the back of the owner's ears and you can just bring it up even if nothing gets passed. Maybe they're a bit more accommodating us, your servants that play this game. To be honest, I, as a veteran that's seen a lot in this league in my years, I think the schedule and the arena availability are the bigger issues, personally, because games can be played only in certain times, in certain windows, then it affects travel days, and I think it already affects limited flights to and from certain cities. Players like Kyle Buchanan or Nick Weiss, my teammates, they're not in market and have to be flown from different locations rather than like a Smith or an Ian McKay, my buddies. So I get it's a very tough job, that unless you're getting those high priority spots in the arenas, this might just always be an issue until that happens. But I'm putting it in the back. Maybe I can get like a better shuttle service to and from the airport or better accommodations while I'm on the plane or something like that. Just put it in the back of owners' ears right now because, again, I'm not fighting super hard for this, but next negotiations might be up your back and just trying to make you talk like a puppet so I get first-class priority in all the flights.
I can get you 2 bags of peanuts instead of 1.
Don't if I can throw my peanut shells on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't care.
I'll
You're
get
not the owner of the airplane. So.
exactly. No, I don't care. Yeah, you can do whatever you want with your 2 bags of peanuts. All right, so this is, I guess, where I take over, and as a player, you're still going to discuss my idea, but I've presented it to you already, so we've gone back and forth about this lovely idea, and I do think this, to me, this idea might get us closer to getting some redshirt players, because I can use some of this additional money to get you and your players better travel accommodations. I can get you some redshirt players, and we can maybe talk about free agency, but we'll think about that one. But this big idea from us, the owners.
Let's hear this hot shot.
Yeah. Here we go. We're going to throw 2 additional regular season games on the schedule. Expand it to 20 games per year.
I gotta play more.
You have to play more because I need money.
Yeah, it's funny transitioning from availabilities and arenas and now wanting 2 more games, but eliminating the money and the revenue aspect of it, because really that's what it comes down to for the owners and the players, is a lot about money and revenue and all that kind of stuff. Adding at least just 1 extra home game allows the team more chances to sell merch, sell concessions, sell tickets, TV revenue. So in the end, yes, more money, but it's also more marketability for that team. It's more broadband. I mean, instead of 4 or 5 bye weeks, you're going to be constantly playing. And yes, that's more taxing on the players, but if you want something, you got to give something. And as a player in the league that's seen a lot of negotiations, I get it. I'm not expecting everything for free. Give and take, that's been a negotiation. That's why I'm not the negotiator, learn that word, or a lawyer. But I do agree. I do think that while I do not know if this was the tough part, and taking off my player hat and going back to podcasting here for a minute. This was the tricky part about coming up with an idea for an owner that wasn't money generated revenue idea. That's why we thought 20 games would skirt that rule. But I do think that adding an extra home game for teams like Colorado, teams like Buffalo, teams like Calgary that do not struggle to sell those tickets, that's an extra revenue source. That's another extra game that, yes, the players have to play, but it's more concession sales. It's more beer sales. It's more merch sales, because a lot of merch for the Buffalo Bandits likely, again, not knowing the books, likely comes at game day when they're shopping in the stores for that kind of stuff. You're not going to see a bunch of stragglers going down to the Sabre store on an off day. It's just not going to happen. There's not a ton of stuff that you can order online from the Buffalo Bandits as well. It's more going to the actual physical store. If you add a 10th game to that, you increase those sales. You increase everything else. Yes, it's more money that you have to cost to operate the arena, but you're getting more people's eyes on the sport. It's growing the sport. It's getting more opportunities for people to go down to the arena to see this firsthand. So I will accept the 20 games if you accept 2 of my 3 proposals, and 2 of the 3 meaning the first 2 I threw out there.
Yeah, I think we can do that, and I do have one spin-off question off of the expansion. What are your thoughts on playoffs? Are we keeping it 1-3-3? 3-5-5.
Yes, I would like to see it again. Podcaster, player, no more games. 1-3-5 is my dream in the end. Really, my dream is to see it be like 5-7-7, but you can't have that until you're playing like 40 games, because your playoffs would end up being more games than your regular season, and that can't happen. So until you're up to 40, I think 1-3-5 is probably a good set if you get up to 20 games.
So it'd be, at least for the 5, be back-to-back, back-to-back, and then 1 if needed.
Yeah, you would have to. Yeah,
like 2 in a weekend, 2 in a weekend, last one if needed.
Yeah, because you're not expanding the season; you're just trimming some of the bye weeks off.
Right. All right.
We got a deal.
I'll accept 1-3-5 for the championship teams to make more money. That sounds good. And I'll accept 2 of your 3 proposals, mainly the first 2. And then I will throw, like I said earlier, an extra bag of peanuts your way on the flight.
Didn't ask for it. Love it. Generosity of the owners. We'll send a DM to Brett Fruit and let him know exactly what we negotiated. But again, we are not lawyers. We don't pretend to be one. We're not negotiators. Got it again. We don't even know the inner workings of what they're even talking about besides money and revenue and all that kind of stuff. But if we were players or owners, this is kind of what we would bring up. We thought this was a fun little test while we're in the freeze. I was moving a little bit on that one. But, yeah, if you didn't watch YouTube, go to YouTube. I freeze every time.
He froze twice.
He froze twice in the show. But
not because of Wi-Fi.
But we went over defensive players that have stood out for us for the Bills. We went over Rochester staying in the league and in Rochester, some player signings, and threw out some ideas for the CBA negotiations that are going on presently, and as we're talking right now, hopefully. But Phil, is there anything else with this episode before we shut it down? And fingers crossed, maybe we'll get some big news once again before we record again.
Yeah, I think we have to go sign, I believe, a couple of CBAs now that they are negotiated and done.
Blood.
Yeah, no, we have to sign in blood. Yes, that is true. But we can
I'll
celebrate
get the rookie
at Tap That Tap Room, so that'll be great. We can celebrate there and have some brews after we're bleeding all over the place onto the contracts. That sounds great.
I'll get one of the rookies to do it. I don't have to do it. I'm 15th round veteran.
It'll be their initiation.
But we'll be back next week. Have a Bills game to talk about for the first time in a long time. We'll try to find out one more idea. Hopefully we get some good news on CBA talk or something. Adam Levy, share something with us. That's good news, please. Please, man. Love you. Please. But we'll be back next week, Wednesday, for another show. Though that one will conclude episode, what was this? Scrolling up, 374. Episode 374 is in the books. So thank you all for listening to another episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Thank you to Tap That Tap Room for sponsoring this episode and this entire podcast, this entire conglomerate, this business that we run. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky if you still use it. Buffalo Sports Co. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Check out our store on our link tree on our social media sites or at the shop tab at the top of the website. Follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts, including YouTube. You can see me freeze. And leave us that review on Apple and Spotify. Until next time, bye-bye.